lost a child, when the family's lost a son, a grandson, a nephew, and a brother, and a cousin. And to me, they're the most important people in this room, as much as anything, the community. So we were asked to provide an update on what occurred. So I'm just going to give an overview on the day of the tragic loss of life. One of our sergeants from the gang intervention team was driving on, and somebody help me out if I forget, on Dayton around 8th Street. He notices 5 to 7 small group of young boys with putting on masks and hoodies and walking along that strip. How many people know that area, by the way? Just out of curiosity, so I don't have to be as descriptive. And Senator, thank you for always being with us, Senator Fields. So he gets on the radio and say, excuse me, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be waiting for Laura. I apologize. You're getting in trouble, Pastor. Any update you want to provide on anything right now? Okay. Okay. Is that it? Are we ready to proceed? Okay, so, and I apologize about that. It's be a little stressful when the pastor hands you the mic, you start talking. So when he spotted the 5 young men, he broadcast to his team that there was 5 young men, said what he saw, and asked the units to respond as he started continuing to try to monitor what was going on. He made a U-turn, went to the alleyway just east of the strip center, and when he got in the alleyway, he spotted a Kia van, dark in color, in dark blue or black. He runs that play, comes back, stolen. There's some folks in that van, starts driving away. He knows his units are about to enter the area, and he just makes a decision to start following the van. Within a matter of a couple of minutes, units arrived, additional units arrived. The kids had just gone into, it's like a mini market, it's more like a smoke shop, if you ask me. So if they have more smoke stuff in there than anything. It's part of the business. Came out running, and they started running away from the officers. They had committed a robbery in that location. So the kids went different directions. Jor'Dell went north in front of the businesses, and other kids ran in different places. One kid ran across the street, Dayton, going west into the park, and an officer was able to apprehend him there and take him into custody. Another young man was, we got 911 calls within 30, 40 minutes, an hour after. I don't have the exact timeline on that, even though we do have a timeline we prepared that we will share with the family first. And so we're able to take him into custody, and then the actual incident involving Jor'Dell, he continued running along the storefronts going north. There's an opening from the west side of the storefronts to the east side where you can run into the alleyway. He goes around those businesses, gets in the alleyway, then he turns right in the alleyway into going southbound down the alleyway east of the storefront. The officers are in uniform. They were yelling at him to stop, get on the ground. And at one point, one of the officers, there was 2 actually chasing Jor'Dell, actually appears to tackle him. He goes down onto the ground, ends up on his back face up. The second officer comes up, goes onto the other side of Jor'Dell, and you can see very quickly him and hear him yell, get your hand off the gun, words of that nature. And like I said, the family will be seeing the video here, God willing, today. Get your hands up, let go of the gun, let go of the gun. And then very quickly, you hear one gunshot go off, and within almost a millisecond, you see the weapon, the semi-automatic weapon that he had in his, that Jor'Dell had in his waistband go flying. We believe at this point, keeping in mind that the investigation is very fresh and ongoing, we believe that the officer that discharged his firearm is the one that threw it away to clear it away from where they were at. They had one handcuff on, and I believe the partner officer is the one that put it on him, on Jor'Dell, and they were going to, they discussed very quickly, hey, should we put on another handcuff? They patted him down very quickly to find the other weapons, and they decided not to put on the second handcuff. The second, within a matter of seconds after discharging his firearm, the officer that discharged, so I'm kind of describing the video to the community without actually showing it. The officer tries to broadcast shots fired and that he wanted an ambulance right away. We hear him use profanity, said, get off the FM radio so he can talk. He then immediately gets on, calls for fire, tells them to expedite. Then they ask, Jor'Dell asked me to please take off my mask and my hoodie, my hoodie. I don't remember what words he used exactly, which they do. He wanted them off, and then he very quickly they asked him his name, and he said it's Jor'Dell. And then I would say that he probably went into cardiac arrest very quickly, very quickly. They started CPR, maintained CPR. Fire arrived, a fire rescue arrived. They took over primary care. They continued CPR, and they transported him, but sadly, they were not able to save his life. I responded to the scene immediately with the other chiefs, with the deputy chief. I think all of us were at that scene. And I believe that as a police chief, you need to respond to the scene. That's been my philosophy, because if I'm going to have to talk to a family, make a call in terms of administratively, or if in my case, up to now, we've always investigated or also involved shootings, I want to see with my own eyes the actual scene. I want to walk the scene. I want to look at the evidence I can see. I want to look at the body worn camera video as soon as possible before I talk to the community, which in this case we were able to. And then I want to put out as much information as we possibly can to the community. I also talked to the young lady that was working in the convenience mini mart store, whatever we want to call that. And she told me that they came in. Jor'Dell was the only one that didn't have any type of weapon, and he actually showed her where the weapon was at and made some statements on Tam's that we don't want any problems, something like that nature. I don't remember her exact words, but I wasn't there to investigate her or what she just wanted to get a real quick sense of what had occurred, and they wanted the vaping replacements, and the kids all got a bunch of vaping replacements when they ran out. When Jor'Dell, right before he went into cardiac arrest, which that's when they started CPR, he spontaneously said, hey, I don't know them, words to that effect, I don't know them, and they made me do it, which he says on the video. And then he said, I can't breathe well, and then he went into cardiac arrest. We called for the critical incident response team as required by Colorado State law, and we're not allowed to investigate the criminal investigation, which anytime there's a use of deadly force A critical incident, you're required by law to do an investigation in any state, including here in the state of Colorado. The legislature passed a law a few years back where we are required to use an outside agency, which is, this is not a new experience for me. We have changed our policy, as you all know. This committee, I think I briefed you that I don't believe that the past practice that we have in this department, where generally when a critical incident occurs, the department will wait, and it's a criminal investigation, we wait to see what happens with the criminal, most of the time. That is not a best practice. I believe that best practice is for internal affairs to respond to any critical incident and immediately start a parallel, independent investigation of our officers' actions. Because at the end of the day, I can't control a DA, I can't control the investigation. It's completely out of our hands. But they're two separate processes with two separate standards of proof that we've talked about to the committee, and I'm going to control what I can control. And again, I believe that getting answers to the community is really important. What we hope to do today in talking to the family is we want to allow the family to review the body camera videos. There's a bunch of videos, but I want you to just see, right off the bat, just see the two videos involving the foot pursuit, two officers foot pursuit, and the officers and the active shooting. There was a question, when will we release the name of the officer, the two officers that chased him? That will be once we do a press conference to update the community, after we update the family with our latest findings, and then we will release the officers' names. If we can get that done today with the family, we'll probably do that later this afternoon, if that makes any sense. I want to thank this committee. I want to thank the NAACP pastors for reaching out right away, Pastor, and for being a partner in terms of trying to get information out to the family. I will say this: he was not shot. Jor'Dell was not shot in the back. He ended up face up, on his backside, face up, and he did suffer one gunshot wound to the abdomen area. So he was not shot in the back. That's not accurate information. So with that, we believe we have leads. We have actually located a couple more of the kids that actually got away. My recollection is we actually had a girl. We found a girl that was involved. That mom actually turned her in, and I'm glad that mom did that, because that young lady's going to have to live with it happening here in this tragedy for the rest of her life, and we want to help her. That we will extend any kind of services to those families as well. So that is, I think that's probably the gist of the update that we have publicly. Because anything else that we have, I will provide to the family private first. I've asked the family; it's going to be their decision. I would rather. It's going to be up to the family. I'm going to actually ask my team. I've asked them to do different prepare for release two different versions. One with Jor'Dell's face blurred, and also when he says his name. But again, it's going to the family. Now, having said that, this is a case where the victim and the witnesses involving juveniles. I want to thank Senator Fields for leadership, because we actually, out of a case that happened in Aurora and the mom of the young lady in Colorado Springs, we actually helped pass, and the city supported a law that takes effect in about, I think, another 45 days, where anytime a juvenile is involved, historically, you cannot release the name of a person who's a suspect that's a juvenile. But we were releasing victims and witnesses and the commands and some of the issues that causes, especially for young people, bullying and issues like that. And that takes effect, again, in about 45 days. And again, so I want to thank you for your leadership and always advocating for the community and working with us very closely. So in this case, it'll be up to the family. It'll be their decision, because as much as the public has an interest, there's no one has a greater interest in this tragedy than the mother and father and the grandmother, the think they get another, I think it's about 21, 30 days. We have to release it under current law. And if they decide to, if the family asks me to, that's blur the face. If the media does that later on without the face blurred, which I don't know what the public interest would be on that, that will be the media's decision, not ours. So with that, I will open up to any questions, but keep in mind that there won't be any additional information. I did talk to Dean Keller to make sure that he doesn't have a big heartache. But quite honestly, I don't want to release it. Unless the family told me not to release it after they saw the video, I plan on releasing the video to the public. But again, I always defer to families because, again, a lot of us have an interest in it, but no one has a higher stake. No one's going to feel a greater pain. No one's going to feel a greater loss in the family, and I will defer to the family on releasing the videos today. We will release the names of the two officers that were involved in the foot chase later on this afternoon. Yes, sir.
Will you release the name of the officer who specializes in gang activity who identified?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Are you going to release the name of the officer who identified the police shooters and made the call in the first place?
We can. I have to talk to our team. That's the officer. You mean the sergeant that actually gave out the leave it up? I can provide it to the family later on today. What else? Yes, sir, Pastor.
The Minister of Mines got a lot of calls about as you said,
Yes, sir.
whether or not he was shot in the back. Did the bullet, since you say he was shot in the abdomen, did it go all the way through?
You know what? We didn't have. I don't know the answer to that because we didn't process the actual body and I don't have the autopsy results. The NAACP President Omar Montgomery, Pastor Mays, and Pastor Heaton, what I can't name, Pastor was, sorry, gave me a series of questions yesterday, and one of the questions that they asked was whether or not we would release the autopsy report, and that is, we don't have the authority to release the autopsy report. Under the law, that would have to be a decision made by the ME's office and the criminal investigating office. But I think that that's probably something that folks are going to want to see sooner rather than later. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Once again, good morning, Chief. I have a question and a comment. First of all, I'd like to address the family. This should not happen. My heart breaks for you all, because I know what it's like. The situation is different, but I know what it's like. And I want you to know that I stand with you. I'm going to make sure that you have all of my contact information. This process is complicated. You have to be patient, and it's hard to be patient when someone you love has just been snatched away from you. And I don't have any answers in reference to how to deal with grief and pain because it's a process, it is a journey. And I'm here to stand with you all. But to the Aurora Police Department, my question is, and I can only go on what I saw in the news, that there was a fleeing teenager, something like that. This is what I read. Fleeing teenager, there's some kind of scuffle. My impression of that scuffle is that the young teen was on the ground. And I don't know what can be shared, but if a young teen is fleeing and they're on the ground and then they're shot, I don't know the scenario, the timeline of how that happens. It wasn't necessary. Of course, we know that police have all kinds of authority,
sense.
But at some point, judgment has to come into play in reference to, protecting everyone's life. And so I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about the policy in reference to someone's fleeing. I'm not quite sure if the young teen was shot. I'm not sure where, if there was a perception of threat, if there could have been other officers around. I understand that there are other officers were called to help. Where were they? What could have been done to save this young man's life? Because personally, I do believe it did not have to happen. Summer hasn't even started yet. I think summer starts June 23rd. And, there's always a surge of gun violence or violence period in the summer, because kids aren't in school. They're out and about. So what's the plan to keep our community and everyone safe?
Things are, I think that this all happened so very quickly when the guy gets tackled, ends up on his back, and the officer, like I said, I would defer to you to make your own judgment what I have to say with it, about it at this point until you see it. I'm not sure it's going to be helpful, but I can tell you it happened very, very quickly. I can say that I've watched the body camera videos of the two main officers involved. Another officer took over CPR. I'm not watched it because he showed up and started doing CPR right away. It's one of the things that we try to do in training is to actually remove the officers that were involved in a critical incident away from the scene, separate them, and then get them back to MCU. So that video I'm not seeing of the officer that did the CPR. So I watched the two videos of the officers, and the one officer that pulled the trigger, you can hear him very softly after a bit walking away and just praying to God that he would be with Jor'Dell. And I visited with them later on at the station, and they were pretty distraught. It happened that quickly, and I think when you see it, you'll see what happened, and you can make your own assessment. It was not one of those things where, the guys run, the individuals running, the officers shoot. So when you see it, you'll see how quickly it all happened. There are no words that I can express to comfort this family that has lost their son. And he's a beautiful man, a great heart. I don't care if it ends up being justified or not. It doesn't matter. You'll never get him back. And I look at it through the prism of my 15-year-old son. It's not, there's nothing, but I do want to give them, the family, the opportunity to see the video.
I just have a question, just to make sure that I have the facts together. He was running, I know that he was running, so he was not a threat to the officers that were, he was not, okay. And then you made a comment that the officer was the one that he had a gun on him, but the officer was the one who took the gun and threw it?
Well, we can see that right after he discharged, one round was discharged, you see that the gun's thrown away. So I haven't, because we don't conduct the criminal, I have not seen statements of the officers yet, because I'm not privy to that yet. We will be moving very quickly on our internal affairs piece to bring the officers in and actually ask them questions. Yes, sir.
Chief Acevedo.
One second.
That's fine.
Wait, ask the first question.
So when did the officer decide that he was a threat?
I have not interviewed the officer. I can just tell you what I've seen on video, and I would say that when he discharges his firearm, I'm not gonna speak with him because he hasn't made a statement, but I would surmise that when he discharged the weapon, and I'm not gonna speak for him, is that when he felt that he was threatened with the weapon. And you'll hear him yelling about the gun and let go of the gun. So
Has this officer
it's just speculation. He has to speak for him, he has to speak for himself. That's why I think it's more, there's nothing that I can provide. I think that what would provide better information for you all is to see the video and watch the videos. And then when you're ready, we will release the video. Yes, sir.
I have 2 points of clarification. One, you just mentioned that the officers involved have not written statements. Jor'Dell was killed 5 days ago. Have they written statements about
I haven't reviewed any of their statements.
Have you received statements from them?
No,
So you have not received statements in 5 days from the officers involved in the shooting?
I have not, no.
Okay, second question. You described the instances where Jor'Dell was placed in a handcuff. I'm curious if
One handcuff.
one singular handcuff. I'm curious if that was before or after a shot was discharged into his abdomen. Was he shot and then placed in a handcuff as he was bleeding out, or was he placed in a handcuff and subdued and then shot?
I'd have to watch the video. You know,
I thought you did watch the video.
It happened so quickly, that, again, we'll release it and you can slow it down, and that'll be on the video. I can't tell, I don't remember,
So you don't know the order in which Jor'Dell was placed in a handcuff and then shot in the abdomen?
I can't recall standing here right now, whether it was right before or right after, because it happened so quickly.
Thank you.
But I can review and try to see if I can pinpoint that. Does anybody that's reviewed it, anybody that's reviewed the video address that? Okay, we can, we'll review it tonight, maybe that's one of the things that we want to take a look
I
at.
think we should.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
You said there was a scuffle and the officer jumped on him to put him on the ground. So were they on the ground and the gun went off? Or were they apart? And who shot the gun? The extra police officer on the side, his partner, or the one on the ground?
So, Jor'Dell was tackled by an officer as he was running away. And when they go to the ground, that officer ends up on one side of him. Then very, very quickly, the second officer is on the other side. And that officer, in a very short time frame, discharges one round. Okay.
Transparency is one of the key things that people have been doing. I know people have been pushing on you hard to do that. And over the years, I've heard that the district attorney is always very concerned about being too transparent, if you will, during the investigation. And I thought it might help if you could talk a little bit about why that is and what are the things that they're concerned about, like king jury pools I've heard before.
Well, you know, it's the transparency, the holding videos for weeks and months, those days, that ship has long sailed. As a matter of fact, in the state of Colorado, we're required to release them, and I believe it's 21 days, correct me if I'm wrong, 6 months. But historically, DAs don't like to release videos. I grew up with the California Highway Patrol in LA, and they don't like to release videos early on because they're worrying about pretrial publicity, and which has always been one of my concerns. I had a big controversy involving David Joseph Jr., my activist, my community activist, my young activist actually wanted to release the video. And the other thing about Austin, it's a really progressive town. And if you go outside of Austin, it's not that progressive. And I'll never forget going to the LA riots when I was a young acting sergeant, when, because of all the pretrial publicity, they removed that trial to Ventura County, from LA County, which is arguably one of the most diverse counties in the state, in the country, to Ventura County, which is predominantly white community, affluent community, and it's not really reflective of the jury pool that they would have had. And if you recall, I'm sure Omar remembers this, they were acquitted in Ventura, and that led to the worst to date, that's the worst civil unrest in our country's history. I think my recollection is we lost about 55 lives, mid-50s, Omar. About 55 members of the community lost their lives. South LA, I was there again, trying to protect people, and it was just horrific. I moved from LA, so that has been why the second piece, because, it's happening right now in Houston on an incident that we had, where, they're arguing there's too much pretrial publicity, and they're trying to remove it out of Harris County. Think about Harris County, which is, Houston's the most diverse city in the country. Harris County is very diverse. So that's always been my concern, because I believe that once a decision is made, or once trial's held, then you really serve in the community, let the community see it, but you haven't impacted those issues we're talking about, right? Which has always been the prism through which I looked at that issue. But the issue of not holding, not releasing videos is, I think that has completely, doesn't matter whether it's good or bad, that's what the community wants. I think that that's basically what just about every community in our state, it's state law. I would like to come up with an actual policy, because we don't have one. I want to talk to our DAs, Stan, I want to talk to you, because I think 21 days, quite honestly, is too long. And for the family, I wanted to give the family, it's been 4 days or so, I wanted you to have time to breathe in private. And then I've been actually talking to the president of the OACP about how do we facilitate having the families see the videos. So again, this is the most important people in this room right now for us, is Jor'Dell's family. Anything else?
Once again, on behalf of the Alliance, we give you our condolences, and anything that we can do as a ministerial alliance to be with you, please let us know. We're here for you. One of the questions that we placed before you, Howard, I want to make sure we get to as many of those questions as we possibly can. Why the officers, when they seen the 5 to 7 men with the masks, and they're not boys, they're men, with the masks and the hoodies, why didn't they stop them in and be proactive to prevent the crime?
Because where the sergeant was at, he had to make a U-turn. By the time he made the U-turn, they were already inside that store, and he went around the back, and that's when it's part of the van. The names escaping me. We have a youth advisory committee. And when we were there the night of the tragic incident, the death of Jor'Dell, I see an African lady crying at the curb, at the sidewalk in front of those stores, on the street side, and where the tape's at. You were there, and I said, "Ma'am, hi, ma'am," and I kind of hugged on her a little bit. I said, "What's going on?" And she goes, "Well, I work in," and I recognize her face, but you meet so many people that I couldn't place it. But I knew this lady, and she says, "Well, I work at that bar. There's a bar right there in that shopping center." And I don't remember her name, thank God, because everyone's going to ask me. I'm not sure if she'd want me to say this or not. I don't know, but she wanted to go back in the bar because she couldn't leave. We had to maintain the scene for the criminal investigation, which is something I am going to talk about to the Attorney General of the CRTs. I want to get out of the CRTs, so I'll just leave that, and I'll tell you why later. And so I said, "Come on," she wanted to be in there, right, with her colleagues and some of her patrons, and we walked her, we escorted her in directly to make sure we didn't disturb anything. And she had seen the boys as they were walking up, and she said something, told me I should tell them, "Hey man, what are you guys up to?" So she was very much beating herself up. So it's just, again, it's going to be a lot of folks that are going to be, no one more than the family, but there'll be a lot of folks that, including the officers, will just tell you, they're definitely not celebrating the death of a 14-year-old boy, I can tell you that. They're feeling the pain. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm Jor'Dell's grandmother, Lois, and I just would like to know, what was the nationality of the man who did the shooting?
I think he's got a name that I think he's like a Caucasian, but it's kind of like a European name. You obviously already know who he is, but when we see you tonight, we're going to give you all that information, and I'll try to find that out. Because he kind of looks Hispanic to me, but I know he's not Hispanic. And he's like, we'll
for disarming somebody?
Well, there are, like a felony stop, and someone is, I'll give you an example. A robbery occurs, we're in a pursuit, we do a felony stop, we have a firearm, there's felony stop procedures and tactics to actually deal with that. In this case, there was
I'm
actually.
talking about as far as two officers struggling with a 14-year-old boy.
Yeah. Again, everything happened very quickly, so when you see the video, we will be, you can ask some questions, and I'll try the best of my ability to put the other chiefs to answer. Okay. Yeah, oh, yes, sir.
So I have two questions. So you said that they were struggling with him with the gun in his waistband, right? So when they were struggling with him with the gun, how did he end up getting shot? Is what I'm trying to figure out.
Again, so he gets tackled, ends up face up. Are you gonna be at the video of the US? He ends up face up, with the officer tackles him on one side, and the other officer comes up very quickly, and you can hear the officer yell, "Let go of the gun, I don't want to have to shoot you," words to that effect, "Let go of the gun," and then you hear the gunshot go off.
But
So that's,
you said they were tussling with him on the ground, right?
I just said he was tapped to the ground.
Okay, so he was tackled to the ground with the gun in his waistband, right?
Yes, sir.
So,
Appears to be what it's been.
so with that being said, there's two officers. He's a 14-year-old kid, 110-pound soaking wet man.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that two officers couldn't subdue him with a gun? They had to shoot him?
I'm not telling you anything, I want, you can make that assessment. I don't want to, until we release everything, I will talk about that, I don't want to impact.
What I'm asking, I'm not asking you my opinion on this,
Right.
I'm asking your opinion.
I'm not the investigator right now, and I will discuss that with the family in private. See that, this is being, streamed. In the past, when we've had these, my understanding, we've never done it publicly, when we briefed this committee, it's actually been private. And I think in the interest of transparency, but the most important thing is, let me just, real quick, the most important thing is I don't wanna say something that will taint a criminal investigation that's ongoing. That's not why we're here today. I wanna give as much information as possible without saying anything that might taint that investigation.
So it is under a criminal investigation?
Yes, sir, from the critical, incident response team.
Can you clarify, who is under criminal investigation?
The shooting, the officers. And there's a separate investigation actually into what happened inside the store that has nothing to do with the actual shooting. Okay, all right. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Maisha Fields, and I just want to say that no mother, sibling should ever have to go to a morgue and identify their child. Any type of homicide, if it comes by the way of an officer or someone in the community, is unexplainable and should never happen. And this was a homicide, Chief. Pastor Reed, I'm talking. This was a homicide. This was a homicide. And regardless of what it shows on the footage, if we go back all the way to 5 young men walking around in our community, this young man was murdered over a vape pen that cost $30. And so I'm very concerned about the lack of training based on what happened after Elijah McClain, and how many officers under your purview who have not been trained, who still have bias. I'm a nurse practitioner. If you want to kill somebody, the fastest way to do it is to do it through the stomach. If you shoot someone in the stomach, they're dead. So when we think about officers and the tool belts that you have, right now on you, you have a lot of tools.
to handle conflict. One of them is a taser.
All those tools for what?
One of them is you don't have the time, but you have lots of different tools. You got a whole thing over here, I don't even know. But this force was not necessary.
That's
But if this is the force that the Aurora Police Department is taking right now, and we have not even hit summer, as Senator Fields has said, I'm very concerned. I'm downright angry and mad. And I'm nervous about what it's going to look like for other black and brown kids walking and living and recreating in this community. Especially since your officers have not been trained. Still, in relation to the cat.
Well, it's a homicide investigation, it's a homicide. You know, the question that will be answered through this, certain investigation, is it justifiable homicide or not? I can tell you that everybody has gone through the training. The ICAP training recently, actually, we talked about it at a meeting I was at yesterday for best practice across the country. We actually use actors, we actually hired actors to make it as realistic as possible. And when there's a firearm involved, depending on the time of the circumstances, which, you know, more often than not, officers are probably gonna resort to a firearm to deal with the firearm. That's the way they're trained nationwide and probably worldwide. But again, when it comes to actually the discharge of the firearm, it's gonna be based on the totality of the circumstances when the discharge occurred. One of the things that happens frequently is, you know, we discharge a bunch of rounds, you know. I think they just prosecuted some officers, or actually have charged some officers in Denver because a bunch of shots were fired and an innocent person was struck. I saw that and do all that, so. And then one more, so I don't want to take off the entire meeting.
Dr. Malcolm Newton, my condolences to the family. I want to take this opportunity to say that we have quite a few organizations here that are involved in youth violence prevention. We need to step up the pace. The summer is here. You're getting paid. You're organizing. We need collective action. We are here, we need to get together because the summer is upon us and we need to come up with a plan, a call to action on what we're going to do to save the lives of our young people, especially our young black and brown boys. This summer, because as Senator Phil says, this should not have happened.